Hello and welcome here to the Daily Quest number 28. Today, we're talking about Diablo, and I guess my name is Solid Jake. Yes! Now, before we get into today's show, I want to talk about my roommate, Kubi, and his cat. Kubi's kitty, we call her. Maybe it's her real name. This cat is generally probably the most ridiculous, insane, dog-like cat I've ever seen in the world. She plays fetch. She is super needy for attention at pretty much all times. And she's absolutely adorable. Now, we're going to go story time. Heroes of the Dorm. Heroes of the Dorm was a tournament put on by Blizzard for collegiate students last year. And at the first broadcast, the commentators, I don't remember all of them. It was something along the lines of Grubby, Forecourt Jester, Trixler, and maybe one more. But Trixler said something along the lines of, the tension is so high you could cut it with a carrot stick. What that means, we will probably never know. What a carrot stick actually is, I think it's something, it's an item in a vanilla World of Warcraft that makes your mount run faster. You literally hold a carrot on the end of a stick and run faster, but it's a term that's completely foreign to me. Anyways, community member DeFebvoir, she's very artistic. She does a lot of cool drawings and stuff in the hero scene. Actually brought a bunch of little carrot sticks. I should find it. I would and show you to you guys to an event and gave them out to a bunch of people just because she thought it was funny. And well, I cleaned my room yesterday. The carrot stick was dug out of its corner, wherever it was, and the cat has decided that it is the ultimate toy. She has been running around everywhere, destroying this carrot stick. It's just a little orange tube, really. And I'm thoroughly amused by it. That cat is just absolutely ridiculous. Last night, she was crashing into everything in the house, making quite the ruckus. And it just makes me giggle. But today, we're going to talk about somebody that doesn't really giggle all that often. Diablo, the Lord of Terror, and he's kind of moving his jaw around. Like, I have him muted, but if you, I'll wait a minute. But if you ever just look at him when he's talking and you can't hear him, his jaw is actually just kind of terrifying. This guy, did I hit the right button? I totally hit the wrong button. Oh, there we go. Nice. So, Diablo, the Lord of Terror. Now, let's kind of go through a history lesson. Let's get some tunes on. Nice. All right, let's go through a history lesson with Diablo. He's been in the game since the alpha came out, so he's been around since the start of Heroes. He's seen a few changes, and actually, originally in competitive, he was relatively viable. Black Soulstone was a really popular trait. Just the fact that you could revive was quite good. But just for rotations in general and wombo combos with Apocalypse, he was pretty sought after. You could see Gravo Bomb. Gazel was popular in the early stages of competitive heroes. Yes, I know that might sound weird. But you'd see Gravo Bomb into Apocalypse, and then later, Diablo's presence was more paired with Tyrande, where you do the Shadow Charge, and then you'd overpower, flipping them behind you, and you would have a nice Lunar Flare landing right behind, and you get a nice kill, generally. But then he fell out of the meta. But now we're starting to see Diablo kind of rise back into power. And he didn't really see any direct buffs or changes that would warrant this in particular. But really what it comes down to is it comes down to the scaling changes. And the scaling changes have increased the damage is a more powerful compared to the health that used to exist on heroes. That's probably the worst way to word it, but at the end of the day, it's easier to get kills when you can blow someone up. In turn, heroes that are more about stunning are a little bit less powerful, but heroes that have roots, that are about slowing are a little bit less powerful, but heroes that have roots and stuns are more powerful because it's easier to quickly blow someone up. So this is why you see Tyrande being really popular now, because she's got those long-range stuns. Thrall has risen up because he can blow people up very quickly if he lands that wolf. And Diablo fits right into that mix. He has 2 interruptions. We even see Sonya being played even more. Even though she was still pretty common, Ancient Spear is very good. But Diablo, at the end of the day, isn't really the best warrior. If you look at the warriors that are really popular, it's really ETC, Muradin, and then Johanna. And they're really just great for not only the stuns, but they're really good for the peels. And Diablo does have good peel, but he just doesn't have the same kind of sustain. He has to utilize those black souls, really build them up, have additional sustainability through that. And if he dies, he does resurrect immediately, but in a lot of situations, you don't want to lose your souls. You don't want that instant res. You'd rather have the additional health pool and the additional health regen, however you're building your Diablo. But still, Diablo has found his place because of the stun-centric meta that we're seeing. And we actually saw him played in a few games here in Enter the Storm Europe number 4 this past weekend. And I was watching the games, just checking it out, and I was like, you know what? I really like what we're seeing. We saw 2 very different builds. We saw a more traditional kind of sustained Diablo where it's more about being a warrior that peels and staying alive. And then we saw a very different Diablo that's really just a bruiser that wants to get in your face and wants to do as much possible damage as he can. And oh god, that wiggling mouth, it bothers me. Stop. Thank you. Okay, now let's look at those builds. These are 2 builds. I just labeled them Sustain Tank Diablo and Fire Bruiser Diablo because he's a devil, right? I mean, he's got all these flames flying around him, doing all this cool stuff. Boom, bam, boom. Now, both of these builds, you're going to go for Soul Feast. Soul Feast increases your health regeneration by 3% per soul. So having all this additional health sustain or health regen is rather crucial. If you consider that you're sitting at 100 souls, that's 300% health regen, and that is really, really, really good, which is why, you know, dying as Diablo can oftentimes be like, oh gosh, I just lost my souls, but I just resurrected. So it's a trait that's like getting multiple benefits in different ways, and in late game situations, that resurrect is like a lot of the times could be the nail in the coffin for the enemy team because he's just back in there immediately. Looking at level 4, you're pretty much always going to go for Fire Devil, and this is because warriors need to have some kind of decent lane clear. Not only does this give Diablo a lot more damage in the team fights, but it's going to allow him to push out those lanes much more quickly than he would without this talent. And in a lot of situations where it's about getting to that tribute, getting to that altar, or whatever the objective is on the battleground, you want to have quick lane clear so that you can make sure you maximize your soak in the lane, but still be to that fight where you're crucially needed in the front line as soon as possible. And that's why we commonly see Fire Devil as the talent of choice. The slow on overpower, probably not really worth it. The constant generation of souls, I mean, if you've got the lane clear, you don't need this because you can just be clearing the lanes quickly and getting those souls. Another part of why getting the lane clear is so crucial for Diablo. And essence of the slain to get the mana when enemy minions die, I mean, it's not worth it. Just get Fire Devil. All right, moving down to level 7, this is where we see, you know, some variations start to happen a little bit more often. You can see Diablos that want to be spam Diablos. They will go for battle momentum, so they can really just get off as many abilities as humanly possible and just start just stomping and flipping and charging left and right. And this is a very fun, especially if you're trying to get in the face and be more of a bruiser style. That's why we see that on the Fire Bruiser Diablo. You have battle momentum. But on the Sustain Tank Diablo build, let me just mute those sound effects so we don't get bloops and hypes and all kinds of weird sounds. Good. I mean, you can look at From the Shadows as like, well, this is going to give you additional mobility, right? From the Shadows, enemies knocked against unpathable locations are stunned for half a second. So if you pin someone against a wall, you get a longer stun. This is situational. It's a cool talent. It feels good if you feel like you can really outplay your opponents in a lot of situations, and it's cool. But I don't really know if it's worth spending a talent on. If this had like a second, if they merged that with something else, like maybe this was merged with Devastating Charge. This is the other talent. The Shadow Charge reduces the duration of sound stun, slows roots, and all of the above on you for 6 seconds by 50%. So if you merge those two, that might be like a compelling talent to grab, but having those be two different talents, I don't really think it's really worth going for. You might as well go either for Sustain, Soul Steal, which is going to increase the amount of health gained from Black Soulstone by 50%, so you're just going to get even bigger health pool from every kill you have or every soul you have gathered, or Battle Momentum if you're going more of a Bruiser style. When we get to level 10, we're talking about a stun-centric meta right now. This is a meta where it's all about blow-ups and about having like huge stun presence. And if you're already running compositions where you've got multiple stuns or roots, you have Malfurion with the roots, you've got the root on the wolf there for Thrall, a Lunar Flare from Tyrande, Stormbolt, Gravity Lapse, you name it. There's so many heroes that are really just heavily sought after for stuns. Apocalypse is so very good in these instances. There's a lot of clumped up team fights. You can force the enemy team to retreat and then scatter when an apocalypse comes out, and then you can find someone, shadow charge them, flip them back, and really pick them off, and it has a great impact on the fight. Now, Lightning Breath is not bad. If you're playing with a Zagara and you land a 3-man Maw and you set up for that Lightning Breath, you can absolutely roast them. It's really quite good. But really, I mean, with this stun-centric meta, it's hard to give up Apocalypse. And when you can think about this global present stun that exists, that casts on all 5 members of the enemy team with a 100-second cooldown, and you pair that with something like Battle Momentum for more of a bruiser build, like, you're going to be apocalypsing quite frequently, and it can have huge impacts on the fights, more so than the damage you'd get from Lightning Breath in most cases. Looking at 13, now for both of these builds, we're actually gonna get Firestorm. Life Leech, really, that's a health steal from the damage you do. 1% health steal. Diablo doesn't hit that hard. If this was like 3% life steal or something, it might be worth considering. But this is every time I've seen it used, every time I've tried using it, it just feels unimpactful. Spell Shield, definitely worth considering in a lot of scenarios because Spell Shield can negate a ton of damage. So definitely, you can consider that if you're against that Nova and you're scared of her, or if they've got, False Head, Kael'thas, Jaina. Yeah, you're gonna grab Spell Shield because that's way too much spellcasters. So never ever count Spell Shield out. But given the option, Firestorm is going to give you so much more damage, especially if you're going the Bruiser build. Like the Bruiser build, it's almost crucial. King Caffeine, I can't play with you right now, bro. Sorry, babe. Doing a show. Maybe later. Anyways, I hate to turn King Caffeine away from some good esports action. So Firestorm going to give you way more damage. We're talking about lane clear. It drastically improves his lane clear, and it's crucial for the Bruiser build. But generally for sustain tank, if you can afford to get it. If you feel like that there's too much spellcasters, go for Spell Shield. Level 6, Siphon of the Dead, I didn't talk about that. It's just probably not worth getting. 30-second cooldown, you gain 16% of your maximum health. Like 16% is such a random number over 3 seconds. So yeah, it's really not that great. I don't think I would spend a talent on Siphon of the Dead. Going down to level 16. Now, if you're going tank build, you probably want to get Imposing Presence, just because there's always going to be someone that's auto attack centric, especially in this current meta. There's always somebody that's going to benefit a lot from auto attacks, and Imposing Presence is really going to make you a bad target. And they want to kill you. You're getting in their face, you're flipping them around, you're displacing them, and you're a huge threat to them in that regard. But then you have Imposing Presence, so you become much more difficult to kill. The other talents available, Fire Stomp increases the move and attack speed. That's what you're going to go for on the Bruiser build. This is just going to let you be in their face. You have battle momentum, so you're fire stomping left and right. You've got these other talents that make your fire stomp ridiculous, and suddenly Diablo becomes, much scarier of a bruiser. He's in your face. He's putting you, slamming you into walls, throwing you towards your allies away from their team, and you can't get away from him because he's got all this additional movement speed and attack speed. It's movement speed and attack damage, so it's not actually attack speed. But still, it's 2 seconds burst of just Diablo in your face. So looking at the other talents, we have the second charge and overpower. It's nice, but Shadow Charge Overpower is already so much that he doesn't really need this. If I was to say that there's a level 16 talent on a new Barak that gave him a second burrow, I would probably grab that. If I could burrow twice, I would probably grab that talent. So you're not spending rewind at 20, right? But for Diablo to get a second overpower, I don't really know that it's worth it. I think the other two talents are probably going to be better, and this is true for what we see in competitive also. And then the other talent, Domination Overpower, reduces the cooldown of your Shadow Charge by 10 seconds. Really fun. Like, grabbing Domination is incredibly fun to use in a lot of situations, but still not really seeing the value versus the other two talents here in this tier. Down to level 20, Dying Breath. Probably not worth it. It's not a terrible talent. That's when you cast Apocalypse as you die. If you're going to be like a kamikaze Diablo that wants to Apocalypse and Apocalypse again and have these sick explosions left and right, it's fun. But I don't know that it's worth it. If you're going a Lightning Breath build, Hellstorm is phenomenal, and you probably should get Lightning Breath. But Sustained Diablo can really benefit from Lord of Terror. It's kind of like a big blood for blood around Diablo. It's 10% of the maximum health from nearby heroes. You steal it from them, so it's 10% damage global. You can steal 50% health total from enemy heroes. It might not be exactly 50% of Diablo's health, but you do AoE damage and you heal yourself up a fair bit. And then last but not least, we have Bolt of the Storm. If you're going full Bruiser Diablo, you can bolt past their Kael'thas, then Shadow Charge him in the direction where he doesn't want to be, and really, really ruin his day. And it's just, it feels so good in those instances when you just dive in there, doing incredible displacement. I mean, that's really where Diablo is gonna reign supreme at the tippity top of the displacement realm here for Heroes of the Storm. Now we've got a couple of replays from Enter the Storm Europe number 4 that we're gonna take a look at. We actually saw Diablo played more than once, which I was like, whoa, Diablo's actually like, actually back to back, I think it was. So we're gonna open up the show. Which one should we do? We've got two different styles of Diablo. We've got Diablo being a bit more of a bruiser, and then we've got the sustained style. Let's boot up this first replay. Ooh, this is from a different patch because they literally just patched the game. So this just delays things a little bit. The game has to reload a former version of the patch and then boot that client up. And we're gonna let that go ahead and do it. Ooh, yes. All right. On the left side, Alex the Pro G, Crosby, Zarmony, Eternal, and Grand Paquete. And on the right side, we've got Ace. Let's get those sound effects up. Nice, nice. There we go. And on the right side, we've got Ace of Spades, Crisplosion, Remember Baller, Hollow Coronatus. I'm going to butcher all these names. And Deviz. No matter how many times I hear the names, I will still butcher them. So, all right, I actually can pull up my new esports overlay. Yeah! Blizzard has officially released this new UI for us to all be able to use in the public. You can find all the info on the actual official Heroes of the Storm blog. And then I made a little overlay that fits on top of it where you can see all this neat info. It says the Daily Quest, episode 28, Diablo, Na'Vi versus TCM. And here we go. Looking at the talents. Soul Feast. Nice. And that's pretty much what we'd want to expect. We already looked at the talents here. I mean, this is once again going to be the build. I believe this is the game in which we see Sustained Diablo. So just remember this build on the left side. That is what we will be seeing unfold in this game. And let's get back into it. All right, let's hide this guy. It's actually quite massive in this new client. Gonna take some getting used to observing with this different UI. I'm used to casting on it, but observing is like a little bit different because you have to remember like what, part of the screen you can actually see stuff on. I actually used to leave this up all the time, but it's way too large to do that in this current build. But the fortunate side is we can actually see all the info up at the top of the screen. So Diablo's role in a lot of these situations is to try to get early game kills, right? He can shadow charge in and then flip, and that's why we see these rotations. Diablo, Tyrande, and Jaina, an incredibly powerful roam squad. I mean, just Diablo, Tyrande alone, the shadow charge flip with the Lunar Flare follow-up can really, really ruin someone's day. But you throw Jaina in the mix, and it's so much damage that most heroes can't survive through that. Kael'thas and Kharazim rotated through the backside, very intelligent here by Na'Vi. and they're just going to do that because they know that they could be waiting in a bush. There's so many situations where we'll see players rotate down through the middle here, and then Diablo and Tyrande will be right here, and they'll attack you while you pass down there, or you walk straight through the middle, which is the riskiest thing in the world, and they're just waiting for you right here. And before you know it, you are blown up in an instant. But they're playing very safely. The Sentinel just constantly scouting, trying to get an idea of what's happening, catching wind of this creep spread that Zagara is placing down very nicely. And Zagara has been secluded down to this bottom lane, but this Zagara, she's not trying to creep out way up here. She's not trying to creep this out. She's just creeping out her own space to know that she can soak safely. There's such a massive risk of gank attempts that she's just, you know what, let's just protect my little lane, make sure I get all the soak on these minions, and call it a day. Valla also not really spending too much effort, only multi-shotting when she knows she can do some damage to Zagara. Nice little victory because she knows this will soak up a lot of ammunition. And let's actually just pause it because I talked about this a little bit too much. This is the other thing I really wanted to point out here in the early game. This is a Roman gank squad. So they immediately put this threat of a Roman gank. So Na'Vi is constantly thinking to themselves, well, we have to be worried about this potential gank rotation. Well, when they realize that it's a little bit like it's not paying off, they don't see any easy targets. They know there's no like guaranteed kill, so they're not going to commit to it. They just grab a mercenary camp, and this is perfectly fine to do. You've put the threat of your potential rotation on the board. Tyrande is constantly scouting with sentinels. We just saw the Hedwig fly past here to give vision of this lane, so they have eyes on 3 members up here, and with all of that presence that they do have, they're able to just kind of go back and grab that mercenary camp. The first tribute is now spawning between 2 minutes and 15 and 50, and it's spawning at the last possible moment here, just as we pass into the 305 really. And there it is. We see our red team posturing around nicely, but Uther has not rotated. He is up here defending this giant camp, also a very well-timed mercenary camp that was picked up to cause a delay, or a distraction rather, here in the top. And fortunately for them, one of the 2 locations that the shrine can spawn, or the tribute can spawn, is top center or bottom center, and it went bottom center. So Uther just now making his way down here. Remember Baller is getting very low, goes the wrong way. Uther not going to be there in time for the heals as he padded this way and Diablo ran this way. Poor communication in that regard, and they will end up losing this first tribute handily. Na'Vi with the, just knowledge that Uther was defending those giants. They knew they had a hero advantage, which was a lack of their primary support, and they just went in for the kill. But there was additional soak here in the top lane. Giants are actually still alive. They made it through this wall. Giants are even doing some damage to this fort. Level lead just about for Na'Vi, and Diablo needs to try to get those kills. Now, Lunaflare used defensively, just trying to keep the structure alive as long as possible, but with that living bomb and these few minions, they will be able to take it out. Yes, there it goes. And we see that Valla is really struggling versus the Zagara in the bottom. When that threat of the rotation isn't there, you're seeing the Zagara get much more aggressive. Diablo has been kind of, forced to defend this mid lane. In Diablo, we talked about 2 styles. A style that has a lot of lane clear and a style that doesn't have a lot of lane clear. This one, he did go for Fire Devil. It's almost crucial because he needs to clean up these lanes and then get back out there, be that threat for rotations. But since he hasn't been able to do that, Zagara got way more aggressive, pushed this lane out, got a creep spread all the way this far forward, and has sieged up the bottom towers. All right, tribute here on the left side of the map. We see it looks like the red team this time is channeling it, but Aldruin's Might over the wall, stalling that out. Some roaches dropped here by Crosby, just being as obnoxious as possible with their poke. And we see Sentinel has been shot out to get some vision. Now, this is an Empower Pierce build, and this is a very, cooldown reset style. It's also very good for denying these tributes, Sentinel, but even with the Empower, not going to be able to disrupt that with another shot of the Sentinel in this moment, and they just have to concede the point. Down a full level, they do have the level 7 talents. We can just take a look at those. Diablo went for Soul Steal, so this is going to give him a larger base health. Right now, Diablo, this UI, you actually can't click on someone to see their hit points. That's probably my first complaint. After using it a few times, we'll compile a list of complaints, but a nice rotation here from the 4 members. Notice Shadow Charge flip, and then the stun from the hammer. We have Lunar Flare, like just a lot of lockdown, a lot of blow potential, and they're denying Soak here in the top lane with that kill. We see Remmer Baller rotating down through the left side. Eternal should be able to just gravity lapse to get out of this, but the flip was good, just no follow-up. Lunar Flare had been spent to clean up the wave, which a lot of times might seem like the right idea, but Diablo found an opportunity, and if Lunar Flare was ready, that would have been a dead kill Thas. Okay, tribute number 3, 2-0 right now for Na'Vi. TCM, they need to turn things around. And, oh, well, we'll see if they can do it. Nice stun. Ace of Spades gets locked down, the damage coming out, and Ace is getting blown up. Dwarf Toss in, and that will be a beautiful kill from Na'Vi. Crosby going to be able to channel that. We see that Vala is just opting to push this out. You know, conceding the point that they are going to lose this tribute. That is going to be a curse for Na'Vi, and Na'Vi is on absolute fire. They've picked up their heroic abilities. We can see that we have Divine Palm, Phoenix, Avatar, Maw, and then Sanctification even for just crazy thing like Sanctification and Divine Palm. Try killing that team. Alex Approachy even throwing Aldruin's Might over here just for the option to fly over the wall and then smite this wave down. Minions will power through that fort very quickly, just maximizing his efficiency, using his mobility and to push out that lane. And now that Grave Golem is a ridiculous threat. I mean, they have to Hunter's Mark it and start throwing everything they have at it. And this gives Na'Vi all the opportunity in the world to do whatever they like. Diablo caught by that Maw, gets surrounded. Good night, sweet Demon Lord, Lord of Destruction. And Na'Vi is really just pushing forward. So far, Diablo, I wish I could check his current number of souls, but I cannot do that with this UI. I might actually end up switching back to the other UI in the future, considering it's really rather crucial for me to be able to check that kind of information. All right, so they're working through the boss right now, powering through its health, and this is just a huge advantage here for Na'Vi. Grand Paquete, Alex Aproji, Zarmony just chipping through its health. That will be another Grave Golem. First Grave Golem managed to take down the gate, but really nothing else. So good defense, the Power of Hunter's Mark being showed off there. And Diablo, with his Fire Stomp, all that burning fire around him, does help him with the Merc Camp, so you want to make sure you stand directly in the center of that camp to maximize your AoE damage. Able to pick up this camp of Bruisers, but they really need to mount a defense. Get a kill immediately, but no, the Stormbolt Gravity Lapse does connect on Diablo, and he has to back away, but that big health pool is making a big difference. He really managed to sustain through a fair amount there. Remember, Uther is actually down here in the bottom, now making his way up, getting those heals into Diablo, who did tap the well. Nice Lunar Flare connecting, but Zarmony should be able to just Dwarf Toss away. The slows are connecting, but it's really all for nothing. Even the Hungering Arrow shouldn't be enough, and they do all skip away. This was all just designed to be a distraction from Na'Vi to keep TCM away from this Golem, who chipped through that fort like it was nothing and is now wailing on the backside. He threw down a root, deleting most of the minions, and now we see the power of Lunar Flare being flexed once again. But what is Na'Vi doing? They're pushing into the mid lane. Uther is constantly just kind of like soaking. He's opting to be the mobile soaker on the team, since they do have Tyrande for heals as well, so he's not absolutely crucial. And with Boundless Conviction, I mean, I guess you have increased width, so it's a little bit easier to clear waves, but he's really not the ideal for lane clear. They have Jaina and Vala, but I guess they might feel it's a little bit risky to send one of them off on their own. Really, this just feels like Na'Vi outplaying and out-rotating TCM so far in this game. But Diablo, you know, he's got to get back on his feet. He's got to start flexing his threat potential, right? This hero, being a lone warrior, can still really be a phenomenal rotator that picks up those big kills, and that's what he has to do. Okay, we see Vala chipping down through these minions, pushing this wave out. Not really any structural damage has been done to the structures of Na'Vi so far, and they've lost all 3 forts on the side of TCM, even taking some damage to their back walls for their keeps. Forcing Aldruin's Smite out early is nice, but they're still not in a position to attack into a choke point like that. And I like this call to try to get in position for this next tribute as soon as possible. They've already lost 3 in a row. They really need to grab one, but Alex the Progene waiting there. We see they're actually very split up. Radiant Dash in and out there by Grand Paquete rather. Just getting in and stalling as long as he could. We see Radiant Dash will be on cooldown just for another moment. And Diablo's going in, Shadow Charge, but onto Zagara, not able to get the Lunar Flare combo follow-up that they needed. Apocalypse having a huge impact on that fight, but Diablo's all alone. The damage output is much higher. Even with like the Lunar Flares, there hasn't been a whole lot of focus. The mobility, Aldruin's Might, Radiant Dash, Dwarf Toss, getting everyone in and out and just rotating effectively. Alex Aproji gets Divine Palm. They're stalling out beautifully. They will be able to wait long enough, but they've already lost one member in this fight. That's Jaina. Remember, Remmerballer. Cannot say that name for the life of me. Trying to get back in there. Needs to use that Fire Stomp. Flips Crosby, but will end up dying in the process here, I believe. Yes, there he goes. They trade out 2 for 2. Diablo has 100 souls, but the rest of the team is just getting peeled apart. Ace of Spades will be hit by a Gravity Lapse, or at least just living bombs. G-Lapse for the cherry on top, and a beautiful, beautiful team fight by Na'Vi. And a lot of this comes down to just superior mobility on the side of Na'Vi. They've got 3 melee members that go into the front line and all can back away. And on top of that, we saw the power of Divine Palm. They don't even think they use Sanctification. If they did, it was like the very start of the fight. And even though Diablo was doing a lot of damage, like looking at his stats, Diablo's probably done pretty well. He's done 17,000. He's keeping up with Vala, and he's way ahead of Jaina. Jaina's been playing so passively in the backside. She's so scared of all the stuns and all the damage that could come her way that she's not really getting her true damage potential that she should be going for. Diablo's going in, but as a lone frontliner, he's not getting the same kind of follow-ups as he might like. And I think the other thing is we're not seeing the Lunar Flares, even with Lunar Blaze, follow up as consistently as we might hope for in a lot of these scenarios. They're definitely there sometimes, but I'd like to see a little bit more consistency, because getting those early blowups on, like when Zagara got pulled back, Zagara is one of the few heroes that doesn't have all that mobility. So killing her right off the bat would have been so huge here for TCM, and they just weren't able to do that in that situation. But the execution from Diablo, he did it right. He knew what to do. He shadow charged in and he flipped Diablo like that, like just a snap call decision. And those kind of ways to start the fight are one thing that Diablo can really excel in. But Diablo being caught out of position, needs that Divine Shield to get on out of here. Tyrael in the front line. Shadowstalk has to be used as well. Diablo back to full health, and the Lunar Flare this time connecting with Apocalypse going down in a beautiful spot with the jukes there from both sides. Diablo ends up falling the Maw, buying some space, and Devis gets hit by that Storm Bolt. We see Tyrande goes down, and that's a 2 for nothing. Just the superior sustainability, the beautiful sanctification to keep the team alive, and this is opening up a window for them to grab the boss. They're throwing all 5 members at the boss, 2 members down on the side of TCM, and this tribute is still just kind of waiting with no one touching it so far. Boss will in fact go the way of Na'Vi. There's no way TCM can contest this at this point in time. And we'll just see Zarmani and Alex Aproji grab that guy and make their way down here to the tribute. Now, this is a situation where there was no way for them to know the current whereabouts if they were going for the boss. So to send 3 or 1 member down to this tribute, it was a little bit too risky. So I do like the fact that TCM didn't get too greedy and they didn't go for this tribute. But unfortunately, this is going to be the 5th tribute in the row going the way of Na'Vi, and it's going to be a boss picked up here on the side of Na'Vi as well. So they've already got the first boss, which is wailing away at this keep already. The second boss will be picked up, just a Sentinel to confirm the location of them. And yes, they're going to see 4 members out of 5 with Tyrael currently pushing up this bottom lane to maximize their soak, securing them nearly a 2-level lead right now. And TCM just kind of has to try to get that ultimate team fight. They're on the same talent tier advantage. Diablo has imposing presence. This makes a big difference for denying some of that auto attack damage that does exist on part of their team. Sanctification used early in this battle. Where's that big Apocalypse? Divine Shield has been used. Look for the lockdown. Diablo in the front, just backing away, trying to reposition, but his team is in dire situation right now. We see 1 member has gone down. Tyrande falling the Maw, connecting on Diablo, and the Hammer of Justice and Alex Aproji, but the rest of the team is just getting picked apart. Let's just kind of rewind and look at that fight. Diablo is the one and only warrior on the red team, TCM, in this situation. Well, I mean, that was the right point, but we're going to go back a little bit further to take a look at this whole situation. So, oh gosh, rewinding broke the mouse, so I can no longer include the mini map. I hope they had fixed that with this patch, but apparently it's still a bug. I should really report that to Blizzard. Blizzard, if you're watching, that's a bug. I hit B twice and it broke my mouse cursor. Woohoo! Anyways, Diablo with the great flank. Like, this is beautiful. He's going in, and Crosby is his target. He knows there's no Bolt of the Storm available. Zagara is who he wants to kill. Now, who comes with him? No one. Like, you want flank buddies. And this is just too much split decision making by the team. We see 4 members of the team back here, but Diablo's really looking for the flank. Now, even if like Tyrande came down here with a Lunar Flare and a Hunter's Mark onto Zagara or Kael'thas, you know, whichever, these are the 2 primary targets in the backline, you could get a lot done. But instead, they're fighting the 2 warriors. They're throwing everything they have, and Sanctification is then going to nullify that. It's a big win getting Sanctification used, but then they have to use Divine Storm to get Diablo out. Here's the next point. The 3 assassins up here. Uther, the big peel support, who can, you know, stun, he can heal, and then if he dies, it's not a big deal because he still has his ghost. Down away from his 3 assassins. Assassins are being pretty much dove upon by everything. Phoenix being cast at this moment. There goes the Phoenix. This Phoenix is used to zone these 2 away, so this was beautiful by Eternal. But Diablo is like just not in a position where he can get in there. He really needs to try to shadow charge Tyrael, who has used that holy ground, like locking them in that spot. And this is pretty much what won the fight for Na'Vi. That holy ground, just completely denying their escape. Then Divine Palm to revive him, and they shadow charge and immediate maw thrown down on him, and they just get picked apart. Outplayed in so many different ways. The zone from the Phoenix down here, that holy ground from Tyrael locking the 3 assassins, and they had secluded away the 2 crucial heroes that want to be saving those assassins. Just absolutely beautiful play by Na'Vi. And it's hard to know that's going to happen, right? Diablo's thinking they're going to be retreating back that right way. So he's making his way there to shadow charge up and get them out of there. But they were stuck in that spot due to that holy ground that entire time. He didn't want to walk through that Phoenix. He would take too much damage that isn't worth it when you've got those 2 huge assassins in his path. And in this situation, we saw the Peel Diablo used correctly in a lot of scenarios, and we saw the power of it and the threat that it exists in the early game. But Na'Vi is just a little bit too strong, and Na'Vi is going to take this win. But that build that we saw, where it's really about having greater sustainability, and we saw Diablo live for a long time in a lot of fights and then revive when he had to. Imposing Presence made a huge difference in the late game. He was able to get into those situations in the backline with all the damage dealers and live for a very long time before he receives the Divine Shield. So definitely does merit that. Might have been... I don't know if it would have been worth it to go for Spell Shield. I actually do like the choice to not get Spell Shield in this situation. But yeah, I mean, overall, that was the first build here that we're going to play with. Now that my game is broken again, oh gosh, Blizzard, please fix that bug. It would make me so very happy. Someone asks in the chat, how was my trip this weekend? It was cold. There is no heat or hot water in my fiance's house. I spent the day at my fiance's place, or the weekend really. And but we built fires in the wood stove, and we managed to not freeze to death. So that was quite nice. But the lack of hot water, that was troubling. So we would retreat back here to Kubi's castle, and we would acquire showers. I'm going to load the client back up due to it being on a different patch from the hot fix today. I'm sorry, Trixler. My facial hair my fiance just hated it. We're going to load up. The hot fix came out, so that just means that it has to load the replay on a different patch, and then I have to reboot the game for each replay. But I'm just glad I can even do that in general. And I love I don't even know how I should type this. I'm just going to type S-Monkey because the next replay is from the Enter the Storm EU number 4 as well. And it's a new team called Sandwich Monkey versus Na'Vi. This was actually the finals. And this new team is ADRD, Sport Billy, Snow, Scheider, and BKB. So this is a brand new squad. They've only been playing together for a few weeks. And they've been showing us a lot of great stuff already, like coming out to ETS, making it to the finals like this. I'm really excited for the future of this squad because, you know, Virtus Pro, they've got a new roster. There's like ADRD, it's now on this team. Sport Billy is now. All these guys have been playing for a while. And definitely, like, they feel like they could be, like, in a lot of ways, the Bob Ross of EU. But it's you know, it's yet to be seen, as they weren't. Maybe they haven't won an event yet. We'll say that much. But this time around, we saw Na'Vi winning against a Diablo. But we're going to be seeing Na'Vi playing as Diablo in this game. So let's just load on into it. And bam. So looking at the squads, we got Alex Aproji, Eternal, Crosby, Karazim, played by Grand Paquette, and Zarmany. Did I update my overlay to say sandwiches? S Monkey, good enough. There we go. And on the right side, it's ADRD, Sport Billy, Snow, Scheider, and BKB. We're not going to say... I'm not even going to attempt that name. I attempted it once in Town Hall, and I will never do it again. So this time around, the compositions are very, very different. We see on the side of sandwiches, we have Tassadar, Tyrande, so double support, but they're both the pseudo supports that have a fair amount of damage and control. Lunar Flare, and then ultimately probably Force Wall. Sonya, that big bruiser in the front line. Falstad, very mobile assassin, great on this map because he can fly around, soak lanes, contest the shrines. He's just really, really good on this map in general. And then Leoric, who has great, zone control and great survivability. And of course, if he dies, he's back in a flash. But Na'Vi, they're running a very stun-heavy composition, which is very unorthodox. They're running triple warrior, Muradin, Diablo, Anubarak. I mean, this is we have got Stormbolt, Shadow Charge, Overpower, Burrow Charge, and then the Spines. So there's so much lockdown, and then of course Gravity Lapse, and then you've got Karazim as their support, not able to bring themselves in with a other support like Uther, but it's not really that big of a deal because they have so much support already. But this is when we're going to see a very different style Diablo build. We can actually look at it again very quickly before we get into this game. This is going to be the Fire Bruiser build. So this is a full-on DPS style of Diablo, where really it's all about that Fire Stop. And you can see 3 full talents spent into Fire Stop, then with Battle Momentum to make it so you can cast it as often as possible. And it's just such a cool style of Diablo. It was really fun to see this in competitive. So that is actually, this is the primary reason as to why we're doing this episode today. I was just so pumped up to see this from Eternal. All right, well, the first shrines are spawning here. About a minute 30, they become available to capture. And that's when you tend to see everyone swap their focus to the top center and top of the map. Both teams making sure to keep an emphasis on the soak of XP. We see Alex the Pro G is actually still down here in the bottom lane, just wanting to maximize all the experience. BKB has to use that Wraith Walk, that Haunting. I always mix up the Tyrande or the Sylvanas and Leoric names. Yes. Anyways, he's going to walk away safely. And they're just kind of dueling it out here. Again, Sonya had to go down to the bottom to contest Alex the Pro G. You cannot just give up a full lane of experience like that. Even if you think you have the advantage when it comes to fighting over the shrines, it is not worth doing that. But they now have no one in the top lane. Karazim is soloing the top shrine. He is going to get additional experience up there if he ever rotates down into the lane when the minions are fighting. And he can definitely soak some of that from the shrine. And we see that we have Snow missing the Ancient Spirit, Alex the Pro G with the just superior dodge, juking him brilliantly. And Na'Vi is just kind of out-soaking a little bit, trying to maintain a presence at the shrines as well. So once again, we see Eternal and Crosby just poking in here lightly. They know they're outnumbered in this situation, and with ADRD and Tyrande and Tatstar both having sustained, it's going to be very hard to get a kill unless they blow someone up really quickly. And with just the 2 of them this early in the game, not really in the cards. But they managed to soak up top. They managed to get that shrine. So shrines will end up being even at the end of the day. Soak ends up being rather even as well. Actually, right now, a slight experience lead in favor of our red team sandwiches. But the flip from Diablo, the kill on Diablo, and they pick up the first kill of the day. Now, Diablo doesn't lose his souls unless he has 100. If he has full souls, he will use 100 of them to revive immediately. So it's not like losing your stacks of gathering power or anything like that. So it's not the end of the world, but it's not good to die regardless. You're giving experience over the enemy team, and he cannot be collecting souls right now, which he desperately wants to stack up as much as he can. Again, I cannot check his soul progress with this UI, unless there's a hotkey that I am unaware of, but I do not recall seeing it in their description of the new UI when they released it. Okay, they're picking up these guys right here. Giant Camp will be successfully picked up. BKB diving in there at the last moment, trying to steal that false head flying down. And they realize that's a little bit too risky, but Eternal stays on the point and shadow charges BKB away. No one falls. Alex Aproji very low in the backside. Crosby going forward. Gravity Lapse connecting at Tyrande, but no, ADRD is the target they want. Radiant dash forward from Grand Paquette, but this is very risky. Many low members on both sides. You have to remember it's double support versus just Karazim, and Karazim's heals aren't really all that great until, well, level 7 they get a lot better, but they get great in the late game once you have the Circle of Life. Level 7 just about attained. They know level 7 has been reached here by our boys over at Sandwich Monkey, and Sandwich Monkey did have the advantage in that fight. Falstad going back up to the top immediately with such haste to soak this experience, nudging ahead of Na'Vi in these moments. Sentinel revealing the location on several members of Na'Vi as well. Great use of Tyrande. Sport Billy just shooting that up there, revealing that they are in fact going for these bruisers, which is a predictable thing to do. I'm actually in the process of writing down all my notes before I make my next mercenary camp mastery video for all the new maps, but like this is one of the tips I remember giving in the first one. It's you really want to time out the objectives. Wait until the shrine's complete. Then 2 minutes after the shrines have completed, that's when you know the next shrine will spawn in the bottom of the map. The second shrine is always the bottom of the map. The bruisers are always in the top lane. So if you can time this out exactly like we're seeing Na'Vi do, you can really give yourself a great split push scenario. Now, to the side of Sandwich Monkey, to their advantage, they know this is happening because the Sentinel just revealed exactly the positioning here of Na'Vi, and they have Falstad, who can just kind of hang out. He's actually just waiting in a safe location. He can push out those bruisers when they finally do come, and then he can use his mount form, his fly, to fly back down to the bottom of the map and help his team out there. In the middle, BKB is just dueling it out with Grandpa Kete and Eternal. They're looking like they want to just maximize their experience at this moment. This temple has become available, and with Sonya, Tassadar, and Tyrande peeling, they're more than capable of doing this, zoning very nicely, but they lose BKB in the process. So with this rotation coming down from Diablo, Unubarak still pushing in top versus Falstad. Oh my goodness, wow, what a great push by Alex the Pro G. They lost a member in the process, and they just have to back away. So they go from being very greedy and trying to soak all 3 lanes while really just kind of overcommitting too far into the lane while having 3 at the bottom, and they lose a member. But we see BKB is already back up. That is Leoric's power. He revives very quickly with his ghost form, and he's omnipresent on the map. Top lane has fallen. This push from Alex Pro G with the mercenaries really paying off. He's not going any kind of cheeky beetle build. Just the beetles in general allow him to push very safely with mercenary camps, and with Underking and the spines. I mean, he can go through quite a bit. And really just sustain the damage, especially with the beetles soaking up so many shots from the towers. Looking at Diablo's build, it's starting to fan out a little bit. We see Fire Devil. That's just, again, crucial for the lane clear. You've got battle momentum to allow you to cast that ability quite frequently, but then Apocalypse. And Apocalypse also gets the benefit of battle momentum. So every time you smack something, you're reducing the cooldown by half a second for Apocalypse, which is a 100-second cooldown, a very long cooldown, but that makes it seem like a much shorter cooldown. Nice Force Wall going down here from Tassadar. Lunar Flare goes out, just connecting on Eternal. Kind of a split focus with everything there, as Dwarf Toss did get Zarmony out of that bad spot. Anub constantly just living in this top lane, making sure it's pushed out to the best of his ability, pushing back this mercenary camp, and he's just spamming his shield, not only to, mitigate the damage done by these mercenaries, but to summon another beetle. It's like the added bonus of casting your spells. You get more beetles. Even that burrow charge he used defensively summoned a little beetle. That's going to be a nice little asset to his push here, or his defense here in the top lane. Giants picked up here in the bottom, and Diablo gonna flex his lane clear capability with that fiery aura. Oh, he is so cute when he's shiny and fiery, guys. But now we see a nice big push here in the top. They know that this Bruiser camp has opened up the lane for them, pushed it all the way to the wall, and they can look to maximize its value with the rest of the team. But they're committing their entire team to this top lane right now. Diablo is in the bottom with Mercenary Camps. Falstad flying in, Mighty Gust trying to seclude Crosby. Beautiful Ancient Spear, but the Divine Palm uses the last moment. Apocalypse from across the map. This is one of the reasons why we love this heroic. Apocalypse from across the map. Now, let's look at the scenario right now. This is a 5-man rotation. And we talk about global presence a lot, just in general. Falstad does have global presence. No one has global presence on this team, right? Wrong. Apocalypse. Diablo. He's got giants. He's going to defeat these giants. We're going to play this again from Diablo's perspective. I want to push out this lane. This is my goal. Get my giants their max value. He kills the giants. His giants make their way down. Fight happens. Diablo immediately turns around. He gets shot once and dismounted. He's going to wait. Apocalypse. He's standing here. He's not even watching himself. He's watching this team. That is beautiful. He's watching this team fight happen, and he pops Apocalypse. We see this cocoon already being used, so this is making this a 4v4 situation since Diablo's not there. He spent his heroic to cocoon one member. I'm not even sure who's in it right now. And there goes the Apocalypse. It hits 3 members, and they're able to turn this around. Diablo's still not even anywhere nearby, but they've killed Sonya. The Divine Palm had that max value force wall, trying to make this a bad scenario for them, but it's not working out. Now Diablo is almost there. They know that he's on his way. They are well aware of this. Murden dwarf tossing forward, shadow charge back, the flip there onto the false side, the huge impale from Anubarak, and that is a 3-for-0 when it started out as a 4v4, but the Apocalypse having that presence was absolutely beautiful. These giants are now going to get so much more value since Diablo successfully pushed these guys out and defended his own while defeating the enemy's giants in that situation, and their experience has propelled almost a full level ahead. The result of that team fight is granting them the advantage for the next shrine phase. So now they're sitting on this middle shrine doing a lot of damage. This will likely take out this middle fort as long as they're able to control the entire thing. But they are, the red team is back alive. So Sandwich Monkey, they're back up. They're ready to brawl once again. So they're going to try to, get a grasp of this bottom shrine. Zarmony, Crosby, and Eternal, I don't know if they can do this. It's currently a 4v3. Crosby in a bad spot. The force wall beautifully done, and a nice lockdown on Kael'thas, so a beautiful pickup. Realizing that it might be a little bit too greedy for Na'Vi to try to take both those towers. They just put their focus onto one of the shrines in the situation, and they got a kill out of it. So a little bit over aggressive by Na'Vi. Great response here by Sandwich Monkey. And now Na'Vi has collected their entire shrine. They did in fact take out this middle fort. Top fort fell much earlier to Anubarak with the Bruiser Camp, and bottom fort remaining here for Sandwich Monkey. Na'Vi down to just their final fort, which the rest of this ammo will get very close to killing. Might actually do it. Might be enough damage in the tank. Yep, there it goes. The final shot did in fact kill it. Sentinel revealing the location of, or not the location, revealing that those mercenary camps are not being collected here by Na'Vi, and Na'Vi is looking to push out this final remaining fort. Now, looking at the talents, Tassadar has been shielding the crap out of this fort. He's really just, he's specting the leeching plasma, and oh, he's even got Force Wall. We saw that used right there, trying to keep this alive as long as possible. Leeching Plasma in the front line of BKB is quite nice, but it's even better on Sonya. That's the prime target for it. Lunar Flare connecting, but the Stasis connects there onto Kael'thas. Beautiful Apocalypse. ADRD is very low. Tyranic does end up going down. ADRD able to escape the last moment, but BKB is the next one to fall in this fight. Alex the Pro G slipping away with his shield, so it's a 2-for-0 in favor of Na'Vi in this bottom fort that they wanted to kill. It looks like they'll be successful in doing so. So the final forts will be removed from each team. Experience is rather even right now. This has been a very close game. But I think that the big name of the game is, like, how is this Diablo doing? He's sitting at 13,000 hero damage, and that might not seem like a ton, but he hasn't really been brawling as much. He's been putting his damage into effect by going into the mercenary camps. Now he's got Firestorm. He's had that for a few levels now, but Firestorm pushing out lanes, just taking mercenary camps in general. The fire comes back and just does so much damage to these minions, and Diablo just gets such an added advantage or added value as a hero, right? You think about heroes like Leoric with Skeletal Swing, Johanna with Night Take Spawn. They're just really good at pushing out waves. But once Diablo has all this extra damage, I mean, he goes toe-to-toe with pretty much any warrior when it comes to pushing out waves or taking mercenary camps. Quickly just capturing this night camp. The Sentinel was already en route, so they know doubly as to exactly what's going on up there. And we do see Kerosene as just kind of being a ward here in the bottom. ADRD, BKB, very close by. They're even all surrounding around this area. It feels like they have a good idea as to what to expect. Thinking someone might be in these bushes here, they're just rotating down aggressively as 5 at this point. And we do know that Anubarak is all the way up here in the top. Now, Anubarak doesn't have that global presence. He doesn't have that Apocalypse from across the map, so there's no way that we can see Na'Vi take a fight right now. And it's just ADRD poking in, just trying to get an idea of what's going on. They've pushed out this lane really well. I mean, this bottom lane is completely pushed out here by Sandwich Monkey, buying themselves a nice window for this next wave. But in turn, this Bruiser Camp is going to make it all the way up to the top lane, even take out a tower, potentially 2. Even if they go up there in full force, it's going to get that tower. Shadowstalk and Mighty Gust both have to be used to disengage from a fight that was about to be initiated here by Zarmony and Eternal. So great response here from Sandwich Monkey, but now they're forced onto the back foot. Anubarak can solo this top temple. The rest of the team just kind of walking around, making sure no one's in the bushes. Realizing that they're not going to find anyone out of position, they're just going back up to make sure that their Anubarak is nice and safe, taking this top shrine. And Diablo also making his way back up after collecting the middle wave. There's a random blood for blood here on my screen. I don't know how that happened. It looks like there's still some bugs in this UI. If I just click people and they have like nice. Anyways, oh, I can't. Yeah, I'll just click a minion. There we go. Looking at the talents for level 16, this is when Diablo starts to get really scary. So he already got Fire Devil, right? This is when he becomes that Fire Bruiser, as we'd like to call him. So he's got Fire Devil. He's got Battle Momentum. So he's going to be spamming Fire Stomp as often as he possibly can. Apocalypse, a lot of lockdown. So he's in your face. And remember, this is all of your abilities. It's all 3 basic abilities, and your heroic get that 0.5 second cooldown every time you smack something with your fist. Well, and then you throw Fire Stomp, so the waves return to you doing 125% damage. That's a lot more. So they come back doing a lot of damage. And then you have Rampage. So every time you Fire Stomp, you get a 20% basic attack damage and movement speed. Movement speed by 20%, 50% increased damage. So it's like mini crits for your next 2 auto attacks, but you're moving 20% faster only for 2 seconds. But you're spamming this quite frequently with this style of play, and this is when Diablo is really in your face. So Diablo is going to try to become that bruiser god that he wants to be. He finds Sonya in the back, and he is going to brawl her. He throws out a shadow charge. She's spinning and winning, but she's not really a squishy target, easy to kill. So Eternal's looking for something juicier. He's looking for a nice chicken to fry up if he's at all possible to do that. March of the Black King not really doing a whole lot, juked almost entirely. Diablo wants to get to the backside. Nice throw and blow. The beautiful Apocalypse connecting their false head gets blown up. The presence of Diablo is almost omnipresent. As soon as Stormbolt connects, he has thrown that out. The Impale hitting 2 targets, and BKB is now going to be the next one to fall. And then just the array of stuns, sustained damage, and huge health pools is just too much for Team Sandwich Monkey. Burrow Charge goes out. The Impale connecting at nothing, but this team is not done yet. The Dwarf Toss 4, Dimensional Warp has to be used to escape. Gravity Lapse is not going to connect. But Diablo is chipping away at this fort. We've seen him Fire Stomp once, but what about second Fire Stomp? There it is. Oh my goodness, he is a Hobbit demon, and this top keep will end up falling. Oh my goodness, the waves as they return blow it up. Diablo slipping away. Gravity Lapse as he uses Skeletal Swing. That was a cute interaction, and Diablo is going to run away on all 4s like a beautiful, graceful demon horse. Forest Wall on Zarmony, of course. He should have Dwarf Toss available in just a moment. There he goes. And he's going to pop his extra health regen there to stay alive. Mighty Gust throwing them into a peculiar spot. But Muradin is quite hard to kill. Lunar Flare from afar, that's the power of Lunar Blaze being used, and they're actually going to pick up this kill on Zarmony. So it all pays off in the end, knowing that Dwarf Toss was still on cooldown. They're able to get that kill. Nicely done, but knowing the position of Sandwich Monkey, right now we see Navi collecting these giants here on the bottom right side of the map. So Diablo, he's been doing pretty good. His damage is starting to ramp up a little bit. 22,000, number 2 on his team. He's out damaging his other warrior buddies, being the number 1 bruiser of them all. But it's kind of hard to keep up with Kael'thas, that's for sure. Shadowstalk used to engage. Forest Wall thrown out as well. Grandpaquette gonna need to make the save of his life to keep this Kael'thas alive. Diablo wants nothing to do with this. They're just saying, you know what? This is a lost cause. Let's just leave. Diablo actually knew he was in a weird spot. He used the Hearth to go back home. They're just going to concede Kael'thas. They're going to concede these giants in the bottom, and they're going to try to make something happen. Now, the things that are going in their favor, they've got this full lane pushed out with giants here in the bottom lane. These giants that have now been picked up will get far less value because they have no minis to support them, so they will die much more quickly than these guys who are actually forcing a response out of Leoric. Anubarak up here in the top, he did respawn. Kael'thas still down, but since Leoric's down here defending, it's, really a 4v4 in the top portion of the map. And they are well aware of this. Now that the giants have expired, they're being a little bit more restrained with their boldness, I guess, because Leoric has made his way back up here. BKB definitely going to provide that 5v4 opportunity, but with Sonya in the top, they're playing a very, very, very cautiously. They're looking for that one member to step away, and it's really these two that they want to try to kill. But every single member is quite slippery on the side of Sandwich Monkey. So Navi is going to have to find that moment. They throw down the Impale, just knocking up BKB for a brief moment. Kael'thas is back up, so this is what they've been waiting for. Sandwich Monkey is well aware that Kael'thas is back up in action, and that is their big damage dealer, so they're being a little bit more restrained, but they collected the entire top keep, or a shrine, which almost took out this keep. Sonya making her way in, gets hit by the reverberation there of Muradin, that thunderclap. And Muradin is walking on forward. BKB trying to get out of there, using his ghost. Living bomb, but a huge March of the Black King and Shadowstar keep him up alive and healthy. This gives him a second chance, but BKB just cannot live through all this onslaught of damage. The focus, a beautiful flip into his own Apocalypse from Diablo, and the nice combo will net them the 1 kill. They were able to just force that Leoric up into a weird spot, and now they don't really have any true peel, just Sonya, and she's not the best lone warrior, especially in a 4-4 scenario. The flip there, putting Tassadar into a weird spot. He's supposed to be invincible, and guess what he is? Burrow charge, Dwarf Toss, the Stormbolt goes out, and that is going to be a kill on ADRD, so they managed to kill the indestructible hero Tassadar, but Zarmany will pay for his life. Just kidding. We see a beautiful revive there from the Divine Palm. Phoenix has been thrown out. The Shadow Charge back on the Sport Billy, and the lockdown, the superior stuns available. BKB back from his Ghost Form, and the Mighty Gust will actually save him, but this middle keep will not be so lucky, even with the disengage. They have the minions here. They have their level 20 Storm talents, and Diablo has picked up a little ability I like to call, or it's actually named, I don't even call it that, Bolt of the Storm. And Bolt of the Storm just gives you the most aggressive options in the world to bolt past a target, Shadow Charge them in the direction they don't want to be, and make their life a living hell. No pun intended. Anyways, they're going to go down to the boss. They have 2 heroes down for 30 seconds, and it's both of their supports. There is no way they could take a fight, a 3v5. They could, I mean, maybe BKB could poke his head in and be like, hey, they're doing it, but he's not going to be able to take that fight alone. There's, oh, they could try to Mighty Gust here. All right. There is a potential plan that could exist. So Falstad steps in. They know what he wants to do, and that's why we see the cocoon being used. BKB marching into the battle, has to get out of there. He's going the opposite direction. The stuns are there immediately, and Falstad is just a fried chicken at this point. Living bombs and, oh my, dwarves flying in with their storm bolts, and that is going to be a dead Sonya. Oh, go home, girl, because you are done for. And we do see the flames of Diablo finishing the job. Anubarak did march forward, Burrow charging to a safer location past their boss, and they're going to chip through this entire bottom wall. If they kill this keep and sit on one temple, they win the game. They could go back to both temples and control them, but they figure they have a situation where they're already sieged up with a boss. They might as well do this. They could even just push in without the temple if they decide they don't want to do that, but a single temple is enough to destroy the core. Burrow charge connecting. Sport Billy goes down in an instant, and these stuns are just so devastating, especially when you're down heroes, when you don't have that same kind of control available. It's very hard to win the game. They're going straight for the core of the boss, having 60% of its health, and the power of Diablo as a full-on flaming demon bruiser bro with a lot of stuns on his team, really showing how scary he can be. Looking at the stats at the end of the day, Diablo rocked out 39,000 damage, and that's not bad by any means. He kept up with Sonya, he kept up with Falstad, he kept up with Tassadar. He surpassed everyone on his team except Kael'thas, because Kael'thas is OP. And it's just a really cool style in general. You know, seeing Diablo back in the meta is really nice, and it's really, like we talked about at the start of the show, largely due to the fact that damage, since the scaling changes, is very impactful, right? You can blow someone up much more quickly than you could in the past. So health pools seem smaller, and healing seems less significant because of how much more damage really seems to do. And in turn, that makes stuns more valuable because you can quickly blow up enemy heroes if you're able to lock them down. And when you run with double stun heroes like Diablo and Anubarak on the same team, and then you have Muradin, not only does your team have a lot of mobility to really get in there, but you just have so much control and so much beef. And Karazim being the hero, the one big support, able to get those AoE heals for the team, and Divine Palm for that one warrior that finally gets focused down was brilliant. And then Kael'thas being the one assassin, also brilliant. Like, this is a very cool style composition. 3 warriors that might not seem like they do all that much damage, but then a crucial assassin and a crucial support in the backline to make everything all tie together. I mean, Kael'thas is kind of like the glue that makes this team work because of how much power he has in stun, right? He can do ridiculous amounts of damage with just chain bomb alone, but then he's got Phoenix for AoE damage. And when you have AoE damage thrown down in this big circle where you have these 3 warriors like locking everyone down and also stunning them and flipping them around and stuff, he has such a huge impact on the fight, and the builds all worked out brilliantly. I mean, we saw pretty standard builds for everyone except probably I just the Diablo. Seeing this fire brawler, as I like to call it, was quite the treat. Fire Bruiser Diablo, the build is right there if you would like to copy it. I will be putting links to these builds in the info on the YouTube channel, and of course, these will, you can just look at the image too and copy it yourself because it's in the exact same order as the game. But bam, Diablo is back, boys. He is back, and I hope he never leaves because he is very, very entertaining to watch. The stream will resume in just a moment, but that is going to conclude the Daily Quest number 28. We've got 2 or 3 more before I go away for the holidays, so we've got a few more lined up. I'm going to be doing Mercenary Camp Mastery 2.0 this week, so that's the 4 newest maps that I haven't covered yet. Towers of Doom, Tomb of the Spider Queen, Battlefield of Eternity, and Infernal Shrines. We'll be doing an update as to decision-making for mercenaries versus the objectives, and how you weigh what's worth doing in each moment, and like some nice little timings that can really just help step up your game in general in Heroes of the Storm. And I don't know what the other themes will be. I was thinking of doing a like pre-Greymane video, but that's pretty fluffy. So if there are other videos you guys would really like to request and I have the right replays to make those videos good and compelling, I will definitely do my best to execute them. Be sure to hit the subscribe button here on YouTube and follow the channel here on Twitch. That does it for Town Hall 28, and I'll see you guys here on the live stream in just a few.